Previously on the keys of time.
We now have the keys that are necessary to start to systematically unveil the Bible's chronology. The first two keys revealed the divinely ordained blueprint or framework for time. Keys 1 and 2 basically say that the blueprint is a week of 7 days of 1,000 years each. The next two keys resulted in the discovery of God's redemption chronology, which exists alongside the Bible's actual chronology. Key 3 says, at the end of every Jubilee cycle of 49 actual years, God adds a special 50th year of grace. Key 4 is the principle of unreckoned time, which says that God does not count times when his people's sin causes his plan of redemption to be suspended. This is convincingly revealed by the 479 completed years recorded in 1 Kings 6:1, which are 131 years short of the actual time. Now, the total times of servitude are also 131 years. So if they are subtracted from the total time, this gives exactly 479 years. We will now look at the next 490-year Great Jubilee cycle in the chronology of redemption, from the dedication of Solomon's temple to the decree of Artaxerxes to restore and rebuild Jerusalem. Judah and Israel had different ways of measuring time. For example, there's the issue of whether they used accession years or not. And then there's the issue of whether they used Nisan or Tishri-based years. And then there's the issue of whether there were co-regencies and interregnums. The second reason for the difficulty of this period is in the connection of Israel's chronology with that of the surrounding nations which interacted with her, especially Egypt and Assyria and Babylon. The primary chronology we need to follow is that of Judah. The two kingdoms used different methods to measure the reigns of their kings. The first issue is when a king began counting the official years of his reign. The reigns of kings are given in whole numbers of years. There are two possibilities. The first method was the accession year system. The previous year in which he came to the throne was called his accession year. Only when the next year began did he enter his first official regnal year. So, the year in which the previous king died was counted to him as a complete year, even though he only ruled for part of it. Now, the second method was the non-accession year system. Here, there is no accession year, but the king counts the year in which he began to reign as his first year, even though he only reigned for part of it. As before, he also counts his final year as a complete year. On the non-accession year system, any transitional years are counted twice. The second issue is which month was used for the start of the official year for a king's reign. Nisan, which is the first month of the calendar year, or Tishri, which is the 7th month of the calendar year. The Assyrian capital Nineveh fell to the Babylonians in 612 BC. And so then they moved it to Haran, which then fell in 610 BC, in the 16th year of Nabopolassar. So the capital then moved to Carchemish, their last stronghold. Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, was allied with the Assyrian king Ashur-uballit II. In 609 BC, he marched urgently to join with the Assyrians at Carchemish and save them from the Babylonians, attempting to stop the rise of this new superpower. But Josiah, knowing from Isaiah's prophecies that Babylon would be the next major power after the Assyrians, had allied himself with Babylon, and so he went out to intercept Necho, who was en route to Carchemish through the Holy Land. Josiah, however, was killed in this battle at Megiddo. 2 Kings 23:29 says, "In his days Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, went to the aid of the king of Assyria, to the river Euphrates, and King Josiah went against him. And Pharaoh Necho killed him at Megiddo when he confronted him." Necho did finally reach Carchemish, and he joined with the Assyrians to try and retake Haran in the 17th year of Nabopolassar, that is 609 BC, as recorded in the Babylonian Chronicles. However, this attempt failed, and this event marked the end of the Assyrian Empire, and we hear no more of the Assyrians from this point onwards. Necho returned to Egypt that year, but he left behind a military force in the region, which continued to oppose the Babylonians until their decisive defeat at the famous Battle of Carchemish in 605 BC. However, 609 BC is a key date, marking the moment that Babylon took over from Assyria as the dominant superpower north of Israel. It is the start of Babylon's day of dominance over the nations, which lasted for exactly 70 years. Next we come to King Jehoahaz of Judah, who reigned for 3 months.
Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he became king, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem.
Upon Josiah's death at the hands of Necho, the people made Jehoahaz king.
His servants drove his body in a chariot from Megiddo and brought him to Jerusalem and buried him in his own tomb. Then the people of the land took Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, and anointed him and made him king in place of his father.
But when Necho returned 3 months later, after fighting Babylon, he asserted his authority over Israel by imposing a tribute and by deposing Jehoahaz.
Pharaoh Necho imprisoned him at Riblah in the land of Hamath, that he might not reign in Jerusalem. And he imposed on the land a fine of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold.
Necho then installed Eliakim, another son of Josiah, in his place. Eliakim was then renamed Jehoiakim. The only chronological issue here is whether these 3 months cross over into a new regnal year, in which case we should count them as 1 year. Otherwise, they fall within his accession year, so that he did not make it to the start of his first year, in which case his reign does not make any addition to the total. We must assume the latter, unless there's clear evidence for the former, for if his reign crossed into his first year, it should really have been recorded as being 1 year. This is confirmed by the classic synchronism of Jeremiah 25, 1-3, which says, "The word that came to Jeremiah in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, which Jeremiah the prophet spoke to all the people of Judah, saying, starting from the 13th year of Josiah, even to this day, this is the 23rd year in which the word of the Lord has come to me." It is logical that Jeremiah would have measured his years of ministry according to the Tishri regnal years, especially as he was called to warn the kings of Judah during their final 40 years of reign, before the desolations began. Thus, Jeremiah's first year is Josiah's 13th year, and then Jeremiah's 23rd year is Jehoiakim's 4th year. These 23 years of Jeremiah fit perfectly with the kings, as long as Jehoahaz is not assigned 1 year, for they consist of the remaining 19 years of Josiah, counting inclusively from his 13th year to his 31st year, plus the first 4 years of Jehoiakim. So the 19 years plus the 4 years of Jehoiakim make those 23 years perfectly. Unfortunately, many chronologies are forced to assign 1 year to Jehoahaz because they wrongly assume Daniel's captivity in the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, according to Daniel 1:1, took place in the same year as the famous Battle of Carchemish, which is 605 BC, when Pharaoh Necho was finally defeated by Nebuchadnezzar.
In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it.
They believe that Jehoahaz should be assigned 1 year, even though Jeremiah 46 verse 2 expressly says that the Battle of Carchemish took place in the 4th of Jehoiakim.
To Egypt, concerning the army of Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, which was by the Euphrates river at Carchemish, which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, defeated in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah.
This 1 year allows them to bring the 3rd of Jehoiakim forward from 607 to 606 BC to 606 to 605 BC. This, in turn, creates more problems. To make the synchronisms work, they have to assert that Jeremiah measured the king's reigns as Nisan years, unlike Daniel, Kings, and Chronicles, which used Tishri years, even though Jeremiah probably wrote the relevant section in the Book of Kings. But now, according to their theory, the 40 years of Jeremiah's warnings do not work. Moreover, this requires 605 BC to be the starting date for the 70-year Babylonian captivity, but the Cyrus Decree, which ends the captivity, was in the 1st year of Cyrus, according to Ezra 1:1, and this is an established date, being in the year of from Nisan 538 to 537 BC.
Now, in the 1st year of Cyrus, king of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, the Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, so that he sent a proclamation throughout all his kingdom.
Now this is 68 years, not 70 years. So clearly an error has taken place. So the 3 months of Jehoahaz should not be counted as a 1 year reign. Next we come to King Jehoiakim of Judah, who reigned for 11 years. 2 Kings 23:36 says, Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. Jehoiakim started as Egypt's vassal, according to 2 Kings 23:35.
So Jehoiakim gave the silver and gold to Pharaoh, but he taxed the land in order to give the money at the command of Pharaoh. He exacted the silver and gold from the people of the land, each according to his valuation, to give it to Pharaoh Necho.
But soon, as it says in 2 Kings 24 verse 1, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up and Jehoiakim became his vassal. According to Daniel 1:1, this took place in his 3rd year. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it, and the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand. Now this is when Daniel went into captivity, and this marks the start of the Babylonian captivity, and it's also the initial start of the times of the Gentiles that Jesus talked about in Luke 21:24.
And they will fall by the edge of the sword, and will be led captive into all the nations. And Jerusalem will be trampled underfoot by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled.
The times of the Gentiles are an extended period of Gentile dominion over Israel. Here, Nebuchadnezzar is called king of Babylon, although he only came to the throne in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, when his father Nabopolassar died, according to Jeremiah 25:1.
The word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the people of Judah in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, that was the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon.
This can be seen as a proleptic title, which is when you refer to someone maybe in their early years by the title that they're going to have later on. Someone talking about President Kennedy's early years might call him President Kennedy, even though he doesn't become president till later on in his career. So this is commonly done. Or another explanation is that this is consistent with the Hebrew custom, which we've seen before, of regarding a crown prince as a co-regent. So it could be that the Hebrews saw Nebuchadnezzar as a co-regent with his father, and therefore they call him king. This is confirmed by Jeremiah 46:2, where Nebuchadnezzar is called king of Babylon, when he finally defeated Necho at Carchemish in Jehoiakim's 4th year. Yet we know that his father, Nabopolassar, only died later that year. Jeremiah 46:2 says, "Concerning the army of Pharaoh, Necho, king of Egypt, which was by the river Euphrates in Carchemish, and which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, defeated in the 4th year of Jehoiakim." A final confirmation that the initial captivity in Daniel 1 took place before the year of the Battle of Carchemish and Nebuchadnezzar's accession is through Daniel's chronology. Having been taken captive as one of Israel's top men, he was put on a 3-year training course to prepare him for a position in the palace. That's in Daniel 1, verse 3 to 5.
Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, the chief of his officials, to bring in some of the sons of Israel, including some of the royal family and of the nobles, youths in whom was no defect, who were good-looking, showing intelligence in every branch of wisdom, endowed with understanding and discerning knowledge, and who had ability for serving in the king's court. And he ordered him to teach them the literature and language of the Chaldeans. The king appointed for them a daily ration from the king's choice food and from the wine which he drank, and appointed that they should be educated 3 years, at the end of which they were to enter the king's personal service.
Only at the end of these 3 years was he presented before Nebuchadnezzar to be inducted into service. That was his graduation. Daniel 1:18 says, "Now at the end of the days," the 3 years, "when the king had said that they should be brought in, the chief of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar." The events of Daniel 2, where Daniel interpreted the king's dream of the great image, revealing the course of the times of the Gentiles, had to take place after these 3 years of training. This is because Daniel now had a position at court. That's according to Daniel 2:12 and 13.
Because of this, the king became indignant and very furious and gave orders to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they looked for Daniel and his friends to kill them.
And so Daniel had access to the king, and he appears before the king to ask for more time.
Daniel went in and requested of the king that he would give him time in order that he might declare the interpretation to the king.
Daniel had access to give the interpretation.
Then Arioch hurriedly brought Daniel into the king's presence and spoke to him as follows: "I have found a man among the exiles from Judah who can make the interpretation known to the king."
Then, after Daniel's interpretation of the vision, Daniel was promoted to be ruler over the whole province of Babylon and over all the wise men, which is Daniel 2:48.
Then the king promoted Daniel and gave him many great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief prefect over all the wise men of Babylon.
Also, Daniel's friends were given top positions, as we see in Daniel 2:49.
And Daniel made request of the king, and he appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the administration of the province of Babylon, while Daniel was at the king's court.
Now, it's impossible that this took place during their 3 years of training, after which they were presented to the king to be given a position in the court. Now, these events took place in the 2nd year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, according to Daniel 2:1, after Daniel had fulfilled 3 years of training and served an unknown number of months in court.
Now in the 2nd year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams, and his spirit was troubled, and his sleep left him.
This means he had to have gone into captivity in the year before Nebuchadnezzar's accession year. This agrees perfectly with him going into captivity in the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, whereas Nebuchadnezzar's accession was in the 4th year of Jehoiakim. This is confirmed by Jeremiah 46 verse 2, which also dates his victory at Carchemish as the 4th year of Jehoiakim.
Concerning the army of Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, which was by the Euphrates river at Carchemish, which Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, defeated in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah.
And Babylonian records tell us that his father died soon after in that same year. The Babylonian records say that during this year he also marched victoriously through Hattiland, which included Judah, returning home with much treasure. This term indicates unopposed martial progress through territory already subservient, collecting tribute. Thus, he had already made Judah subservient the previous year, that is, the 3rd year of Jehoiakim. Jeremiah 25:1 is a crucial verse, giving us a perfect connecting link between sacred and secular chronology. It tells us that the 4th year of Jehoiakim is the accession year of Nebuchadnezzar.
The word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the people of Judah in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, that was the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon.
This is the first time we are given a dated synchronism with a Gentile king. At some point, you see, it's necessary for the sacred chronology of Israel to be tied to the secular chronology of the nations so that we can deduce absolute dates. God did this at this point of history for 2 reasons. Firstly, he had to choose a time when the secular records are accurate and trustworthy, otherwise he would not achieve his purpose. Linking Israel's history to the start of Nebuchadnezzar's reign implies this date can be established without question from the secular history, and indeed this is the case. In fact, it is only from this very time that we have absolute certainty and accuracy concerning the dates of secular history. Secondly, it's appropriate that at the start of the era of Gentile dominion over Israel, called the Times of the Gentiles, that would last over 2,500 years, that God established a connecting link between Israel's chronology and the start of the reign of the first of these great Gentile powers who would have dominion over Israel, who was Nebuchadnezzar, the head of gold in the vision. And so you see that that Gentile dominion was reflected in the fact that now Israel's chronology is tied to the Gentile chronology. Now, we know from the Babylonian records that Nabopolassar died in the 8th of Av, 605 BC. That's the 8th of August on our own calendar. And he died shortly after Nebuchadnezzar's famous victory over Egypt at Carchemish in that year, which secured Babylonian dominance. Nebuchadnezzar rushed back to Babylon to take the throne on the 1st of Elul, which is the 31st of August. Therefore, Nebuchadnezzar's accession year started from this point, until the following Nisan in 604 BC, which was the start of his first regnal year, for the Babylonians used Nisan years. Thus, the vision of the image in Daniel 2 in his second year was from Nisan 603 to 602 BC. Jeremiah 25:1 and Jeremiah 46:2 locate both Carchemish and Nebuchadnezzar's enthronement in the 4th year of Jehoiakim. Therefore, the 4th year of Jehoiakim must have been from Tishri, that is October 606 BC, to Tishri 605 BC, as the kings of Judah always used Tishri years. And so the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, when Daniel went into captivity, which marked the start of the Babylonian captivity, must be from Tishri 607 BC to Tishri 606 BC.